You're listening to the Valley Current.
Looking very wired there and very youthful.
Yeah.
It's good, right?
Yeah, doing great.
So thanks for coming on. I'd like to just give an introduction because I've known you for years, and we started talking about ChatGPT, and I've had some other people talk about ChatGPT in a variety of domains, but you've been a software professional now for decades. And tell us just a little bit about your journey to Silicon Valley, because you've been a startup founder, you've been successful with various companies, and you've done a lot of really interesting things with software. And you know, software is kind of eating up the rest of the world as we live in various ways. But tell us more about where you went to school and how you progressed in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, so I really started my education in China. Very interestingly, I literally, grew up within 5-mile radius from birth all the way to graduate school in China, and eventually went to a school called the University of Science and Technology of China, which is essentially the China version of Caltech.
Okay.
This is a pure science and technology. There's no liberal art. There's no humanity.
It's a tough school to get into, Caltech, and people that come out of it remember it forever, right?
Yeah, it is. It was when I was there. Is one of the top three, in par with Tsinghua and Beijing University.
Right.
One of the top three in China. Even today, the school is still leading in some key areas like quantum communication, like code fusion, and just many. And we produce a lot of leading AI expert in the U.S. as well as in China. So the university is stress math a lot. So pretty much every graduate, we're very good with advanced math.
The AI area was already exposed to you back when you were in school at the University of Science?
Yeah, so it is very interesting. When I was a high school student, right, because all my neighbors, they are all university professors, right? So I asked a neighbor about, getting a beginning material for computer science, and she gave me a manual on Lisp. And in English too. Remember, I was still a high school student in China. Yes, I was reasonable with English, but there is no way I can read a computer science manual in English. It's the one of the earliest AI programming language, and it is still alive and well, but it's just not under the name Lisp. There's closure and all that. They're just Lisp. Different dialect of Lisp.
Right. You got exposed to that very early in life.
Yeah, very early on in life. And then I came over, but I was majoring in physics, not computer science, specifically in superconductivity, which is a very interesting area. And there's some very interesting development. So I came to the US for my PhD and found out, physics PhD gets pretty boring pretty fast because it gets into very abstract. It's no longer has a lot of connection with the real world, which is not why I picked physics as a major. So I literally dropped out my PhD program and came to Silicon Valley. Unfortunately, at the time, the job market wasn't that great. I couldn't find a job. So I went to Southern California, found a job in IT space, and been in Southern California for many, many years. And eventually, my passion for innovation did not die down. So eventually I started a startup, and the VC offered me a package to relocate to Bay Area. So I took the package, relocated the company and my family to Bay Area.
What year was that?
This was 2008.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm relatively new to Bay Area, but I'm not new to California. I've been in Southern California for many, many years. And innovation has always been my passion. So even as a teenager, I was trying to, invent something, simple things. And also, when I was in middle school and high school, China was just just opens door, just in the reform. So there is a very interesting publication called the Science Pictorial. So literally is a pictorial for teenagers that they talk about science. And a lot of content has to do with how do you innovate, how do you invent. And so I was deeply influenced by the particular publication. So I've always wanted to do innovation. So when there is a chance to, move to Silicon Valley, you're like, I jump on the opportunity and did not let go. In fact, my co-founder complained, like, you didn't even, you should give it a start before we make commitment. I'm like, no way. I mean, this is something I have always wanted to do throughout my life. And here's the opportunity. I'm not letting it go.
You forced him to move. You forced him to move as well, right?
Yes, because the company moves, right? So he had no chance to say no.
Nice.
But, it is definitely the right kind of move. So if you want to build a massively successful business, there is no place like a Silicon Valley that you can do so. The ecosystem, the people, the culture, everything is just the right place.
And you grew that company. I know you raised a number of rounds of VC money and grew that company very successfully.
Yeah, the company eventually became a $1 billion company. So I did find, I live in Southern California for many years and now in Bay Area. I can tell you the culture is very different, specifically when we're talking about startup, right?
Right.
You talk about startup in Southern California, people are like, well, we're not really interested. We just want a job.
Right.
They don't have a growth mentality. They mostly just, how much you're paying me, right? They're not interested in stock options, not interested in, they don't believe you can build a $1 billion company, so it's very different. And you just don't get a lot of like-minded people. If you're innovative in Southern California, you're very lonely. There's not a lot of people that understand you.
They're like, when you're going to turn that into a movie that we can watch? Like, that's what they'd be interested in, right?
Yeah. If you're into movies, 30% of all Southern California working for the movie industry, right? So yes, if you're into movie, fashion, fast cars and all this stuff, yes. But if you're into innovation, people are like, look, we don't know what you're talking about. We're not interested, right? So here it's like, everybody is into it, and you talk about it, everybody can add a lot of value to it. It's a very, very different.
So tell me how you got interested in ChatGPT, because a lot of people have not really been following them. I've been following them for a number of years. They've been very quiet for a long time, but tell me how you got introduced to ChatGPT.
Well, I got into data mining very early on in my career. So in 1993, I already got into data mining. And I've been doing multiple, data mining project, very successful project, for, say, Fox Home Entertainment, for like a GE Capital and, GE Medical and all that, right?
Right.
So I've been in the space for some time. And so when GPT-2 first came out, I immediately kind of start playing with it. Of course, I'm a programmer, so it's easy for me to play with it. Wasn't very impressed. It does what it does, but it's not impressive. And then ChatGPT near end of the last year got really hot, and so I decided, well, maybe I should check out again. And what a surprise, in this few years with development that I've achieved. I keep pushing it to limit. and it keeps surprising me. And the deeper I get into it, the more I discover it can do. So in the whole past month and a half, I've been doing very deep digging. This is not just writing a story, write a poem and the stuff. I'm really trying to make it right, business processes. I one time was a principal level management consultant, so I did business process design and all this, and so I took I fabricated some cases for it to work on, because it's supposed to be more creative than even programming, right? Because this is more real abstract, knowledge intensive work. And I was really surprised it was able to do that, do a very high quality work. And then, I push it to do reasoning beyond math, and did really well. And, I make it to think about morality and all this stuff. It's like every way I turn, it surprises me. And it has got to a point that I really believe, with what I can make it do, I really believe we have reached an inflection point. The analogy I give to my friends is like the invention of archery. Prior to archery, can you catch animal? Yeah, sure. You can take a stick or a rock and chase the animal around until they're tired. You hit them and you get the protein, right? Then you have archery. You don't have to chase them. You just aim at them and shoot at them. And they can't escape because the arrows are more effective.
But it's almost more powerful than archery. It's almost like gunpowder. And
yeah, it's kind of like a gunpowder. But like archery really changed how we get to the protein source, right? Because used to be able to chase them all over the hill before you get a piece of meat. Now you just shoot them. So it's very exciting. At the same time, but then you think about it, well, someone could shoot you while you're standing there, right? So it is so exciting, but at the same time, it's so damn dangerous.
Right.
All at the same time, right? So, ChatGPT is very much the same. I'm really excited. I actually talk about it every single day. My daughter got bored just like that every day. You see me just talk about ChatGPT. Can you talk about something else? That's how excited I am really with the technology, right?
You tell her that we could talk about physics if you really want to talk about physics?
That will bore her like right away, right? But at the same time.
But are you okay with her using ChatGPT to get her homework done? Are you okay with that?
She already graduated from college, so she doesn't really have homework per se.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
At the same time, I do, see some danger, because when you push it to the limit, it starts hallucinating. Or a better way in plain straightforward English would be BS. Right? It starting BS in a very confident way. Right? So,
yeah.
So which is very interesting. So right now, I'm writing a ChatGPT guideline for PG&E. As a corporate, we have two concerns. One is compliance, right? We can't put the wrong communication outside. And the other is reputation, right? If we say the wrong thing, it could, hurt the company, right? So I'm very excited. I'm pushing adoption of it. At the same time, I'm putting a guideline as to how do we really employ the technology, right?
Have you compared ChatGPT to the version that Microsoft has embedded into Bing to see if there's differences in what the results are based on the prompts that you use in Bing versus the prompts you use in the actual logged in account that I assume you have on GPT-4?
I have not tried Bing. I did try Bard from Google.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Bard is pretty, at this stage, right, is pretty retarded. A lot of things that ChatGPT excel. Granted, I'm not giving them any easy task. I'm giving a lot of challenging text to understand.
Right.
ChatGPT excelled it. but BART just barely works at this point, right?
Okay. So you would say BART is more like ChatGPT 2.
Yeah, it's a little bit better than GPT-2. It's probably like early version of GPT-3.
Okay.
It's definitely not at right now we're at GPT-4, right?
4,
so
right.
Even 3.5 turbo was pretty impressive, right? So the difference between 3.5 turbo and 4 is not as big, but 3 and the current version there's a huge difference, right? But what is very interesting really is that it can reason very, very well, surprisingly well. And then of course, being a software engineer, I can extend it with additional capabilities like a symbolic, AI. So I was able to merge a symbolic AI and the ChatGPT together and do some very impressive work. Literally, you threw a business problem at it, and it just spit out the answer.
Give us an example of a business problem that you feel it did a really good job on. Is there a way to just generically describe the business?
Yeah, just
problem?
use plain, straightforward English. Say, hey, I have this production issue. I need to produce all this product, but here's the constraint. Here's the cost. I need to meet the market as much as possible, but at the same time maximize the profit. How do I do this?
And it'll write the optimization equations. It'll actually go that.
Well, yes, the ChatGPT will spit out the logic how it's supposed to be solved, and that logic then is picked up by my software and converted into symbolic AI, and symbolic AI spit out the answer. And the whole thing, really, if we package this as an application, literally the user will just throw it at plain, straightforward English and get an answer. And there will be no, in this particular case, everything is automated. So the code was generated on the fly and it was executed. So no one is writing code at all. So ChatGPT is interesting in two ways, right? On one side, it threatens a lot of jobs. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, it empowers the people who has no technical skills, right? So it puts advanced AI in people who has no programming background.
Right.
As long as you have good enough mastery of English, you can use it. Kind of like, okay, let's compare to you did Lotus 1, 2, 3, right? So let's. Right. Yeah, you kind of defended the Lotus 1, 2, 3 IP, right? And you invented the look and feel lawsuit, right?
Right.
Anyway, so if you look at Lotus 1, 2, 3, right? Lotus 1, 2, 3 give a lot of data processing power for non-technical people, right? So it is very, very empowering. Prior to that, you have to work with the service bureau and get mainframe time, right? To process your data. Now, all of a sudden, you just spent $20,000 to buy one PC, install Lotus 1 to 3, and you just start putting formula in, and then you're in business, right? So ChatGPT is very similar in that, it puts advanced, AI technology in mere mortals' hand, right? You no longer, so literally, we don't need as many highly paid data scientists or data engineers to do the work. You just throw out ChatGPT, say, hey, look, this is what I want you to do, and tell me what is in the data. It will do it for you.
Right.
So this is really, really, so it is interesting. On one hand, is eliminating jobs. On the other hand, is empowering the non-technical type. So in a way, it is democratizing AI for the general population. In that sense, it is leveling the playground. So you look at this technology, it's very, very interesting, from several perspectives, right? On one hand, clearly we see the danger. There were people calling Federal Trade Commission to regulate the thing, right, before they any further. So clearly there are people who feel threatened. On the other hand, as I said, it's really democratizing AI and made it available to people who are not as technical as I am, right? I really believe we have reached a point that kind of like, I think ChatGPT is a demarcation point. We can say, the knowledge economy before ChatGPT and the knowledge economy post ChatGPT.
Right.
Really, this is the demarcation point, and you're going to see the knowledge economy grow explosively. And pretty much in the guideline that I'm putting together, in the introduction, I said, no company is immune. No company and no industry is immune from the impact of ChatGPT.
Right. And it's going to be embedded by Microsoft into the entire Microsoft Office suite. And once they do that, Google will do the same thing, embedding it into the G Suite. And Apple's probably got to do the same thing, embedding it into the Mac OS. And sort of like inevitably, it's going to become like a spell checker. It's just part of what you use, except you don't use it at the end. You use it at the beginning, like
right.
to brainstorm, because I imagine in terms of your use of other people and your delegation, you probably think twice about, well, should I delegate this to someone else or should I just see what ChatGPT does first? Because it takes more time for you to delegate than it takes for you to write a few sentences into ChatGPT and get better and better at refining what you tell ChatGPT to focus on, right?
Yeah, definitely. And but besides this, right? So on one hand, it can be embedded in the Office suite, in the OS, phone. So you get a digital assistant. At the same time, it could also be extended for particular business application.
Right.
Like you could make it really a business management consultant, right? Which I did, right? I did very quick, kind of dirty work and prove, yes, it can do. You don't need a McKinsey anymore. It can do better job than McKinsey. Right?
Well, what I said to someone recently, and it was someone that was down in Los Angeles, and the thing I remember about Los Angeles from even going to law school many decades ago is it's got a lot of freeway congestion because there are a lot of cars down there. People ride cars everywhere. They ride cars even if they go like 3 blocks. They don't get on a bike. They don't walk. It's not their mentality. I said, imagine if you tie a voice recognition tool, say, inside of a Tesla that maybe is self-driving, maybe isn't, but basically you start dictating into ChatGPT whatever it is that is on your mind that you want some research on, and it automatically will give you back the text, and they'll send that to your email system. So when you get into the office, or when you get to a stationary computer, you're going to basically have a lot of the research done, almost like having a research associate inside the car. And the guy lit up because the guy said, that's brilliant. I spend like 2-3 hours a day doing a commute back and forth in Los Angeles. That can open up a lot of research time to get a lot of work done. And I think that's probably part of what's going to happen here, right?
Yeah, it's definitely, it's, like you said, a lot of time when you work with others, the cost of communication is the problem, right?
Right.
Now, in this case, you can avoid a lot of the costs just working with ChatGPT. It can probably do a better job. Frankly, there are statistics to show that autonomous driving is already doing better than human driver.
Right.
And we tend to focus on their failure and exaggerate. Right now, a lot of people are exaggerating failure of ChatGPT, not realizing its potential and why it's more powerful than us, right? It has so vast a knowledge base that none of us, no human in the world today, breathe of knowledge than ChatGPT. Maybe in a particular field, we may have depths beyond ChatGPT, but if you look at the broad knowledge horizon, we are absolutely no match. Don't even go there, right?
You couldn't assemble a multidisciplinary team that has as much knowledge across as many disciplines as ChatGPT has, because ChatGPT can do mathematics, ChatGPT can do law research, ChatGPT can do accounting analysis, ChatGPT can do lots and lots of disciplines. You'd have to be as big as IBM or maybe Google itself. And even then you would probably say you're not really going to cover everything that is covered by all of the knowledge that basically has now been machine learned by ChatGPT, at least through whatever date. I think it's through like the end of 2021, but they'll presumably.
Yeah, but GPT-4 also opened its plugin platform. So with plugin, it will be able to retrieve the whatever is recently published on the internet. So that limitation is also being removed. And in addition, if you have domain knowledge, you want the ChatGPT to learn the domain knowledge, there are ways to do it. And I did it, right? I took some data, I made it happen. And I made it to manage the application portfolio with PG&E. It works much better than the architect can do themselves.
Right.
It is just, I think the limitation is the human imagination, not the tool itself. Pretty much anything we can do, it can do better, right? And if you lack certain knowledge, you just feed the body of knowledge to it, it will beat you again, right? It is just.
I said to someone, I wonder what Albert Einstein would say if he were alive today and he was exposed to ChatGPT, because he believed that imagination was more important than even how intelligent or knowledgeable any one individual was, or even what any team was. He believed that the team's imagination or an individual's imagination and creativity. And in a way, you could argue that's kind of at the core of ChatGPT, which is you bring your creative input to me and I will help you multiply that creativity. So bring as much imagination as you can to me, and I will help you launch whatever it is you want to launch in whatever direction you want to take it, because it's your idea that instigates the start of the responsive session that occurs. So I think Einstein would be impressed, but who knows? I mean, maybe he would question whether the hallucinations and the bullshit that's generated is in some number of responses is too distracting. But there are people that argue that even that can generate a new interesting idea from those who do critical thinking, saying, well, that's not right, so let me try a slightly different way to put the query in, right?
Yeah, a lot of people, criticizing hallucination and all this, right? But if you think about it, study shows that, Nobel Prize winners' family tend to have lots of schizophrenics, right? I mean, basically, human creativity has a lot to do with schizophrenics, right? With hallucination. So our creativity really is associated with hallucination. And so you look at a hallucination really is where the magic is. And of course, hallucination has a cost, right? But then human hallucination has a cost too, right? I mean, a lot of people kill themselves because they have hallucination. But then that's also like a bipolar personality. A lot of artists have bipolar personality, a lot of writers too, right?
Right.
You want a creativity, then yes, you have to allow, kind of like in Silicon Valley, right? We allow failure, right? We allow that you go into space that you're not supposed to go, right? If we only want success, then Silicon Valley will never be creative. It's the same idea, right? So you kind of have to allow it to explore a space that we have not been, right? And we kind of look at it as like, oh, this is a hallucination. But yes, that's how new idea got. I mean, imagine, before Einstein proposed serial relativity, we never believed time and the space are interdependent, right? We think they're two set of independent variables.
Right.
I think a hallucination is something. It's where the magic really is. But at the same time, we need to understand, how to basically contain it and use it, leverage it, but contain it. That's the right attitude.
Do you see any startup not factoring into its business plan and maybe even its product plan how ChatGPT is going to play a role? Call it ChatGPT 4, ChatGPT 5, 6, 7, because obviously there's going to be a lot of versions that improve over time. Do you think any startup in Silicon Valley that's involved in software and the internet can possibly not factor in ChatGPT? And if so, what would that be? Because I don't see it myself, but tell me what you think.
I think if they do so, basically at their own cost of their own success. So, right. Yes, you can. I mean, Silicon Valley will allow you to do anything and everything you want to do, right? But then, you do it at a certain cost. Every decision you make, there's a cost associated with it. Right. So if you don't want to ride a wave, yeah, you can, but then you might as well be obsolete by the time your product is out.
Yeah, you're almost saying what I'm saying, which is, look, if you're going to start a business and you're not going to have laptop computers available for your employees, I don't know what kind of business you're going to have, but it's really going to be a very difficult business to imagine it being propelled against competition that knows how to use computers and the internet and all the available tools that are out there for teams and for technologies. And ChatGPT is another tool, but it's a big one. It's a huge.
It's just imagine this, right? Let's say today, if a company says we are prohibiting Excel in all line of business, what does it do to your business, right? It's the same thing. It is quickly become an essential tool. Like right. Excel, like Word, like PP, like PowerPoint, right?
Right.
You don't have an Office suite, what are you doing, right? I mean, how can you imagine a business without Office? I mean, you don't even have to be a tech startup. You could just be, let's say you are a loan office, right? I mean, you do loan origination for the banks, right? I don't believe you can afford to not leveraging ChatGPT. You just increase your cost, increase the risk, and lose competitiveness. It's an essential tool. And I believe, everybody that's going to work in the office or do any sort of knowledge related work need to master ChatGPT as we master Excel and Word. It's just going to be essential skills.
It's like more fundamental in my mind than even what you could say is email and the phone, because a lot of time that's spent in email and the phone is actually not as productive as the time you could spend interacting with, because you're interacting with knowledge and you're interacting with very rich knowledge. And ultimately that's what knowledge workers do to expand whatever the next new thing actually becomes as we evolve, both in Silicon Valley and beyond Silicon Valley. So thanks for coming on, Charlie. I really appreciate your time. I know we had to kind of schedule this in a way that worked for both of us, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, definitely. Look, Jack, I really believe, this is bigger than PC revolution, bigger than mobile revolution, bigger than internet. This is call it a game changer is an understatement, right? This is really like we evolved from the Stone Age into a new civilization. This is what it is, right? So yeah, I'm just really happy. I had a chance to talk with you again, and definitely let's reconnect.
Okay, see you later, Charlie. Talk to you. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Tune in next time on The Valley Current.